Hello, everybody. This is going to be how we're going to be doing writer's block from here on due to internet-related issues, which is totally fine. It's just we're going to mess out on that whole experience of doing it live, but we will be doing live on Wednesdays, hopefully, if my ISP cooperates with us. But regardless, today we have on our guest, Alec Azzam. Alec, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, man?
Me, yes. I'm Alec Azzam. I'm a professional DM and purveyor of all things homebrew. Um, Beyond running a ridiculous number of games, I also just started up a Twitch channel where I stream myself playing old school RPGs and have some actual plays planned for the spring. And I come out with a ton of supplements and things like that. So I'm always working on D&D something.
That's awesome, man. We always appreciate people that work on homebrew stuff in the community. Uh, we there's a lot of them, but there's not a lot of people that have the quality that you do. So we appreciate you.
Well, that's very nice of you to say.
And Omni, would you like to reintroduce yourself, my friend?
As always, hello everyone. I am the last Omnitect, your favorite robot American, and the sole creator, editor, artist, publisher, writer of the Legacy Tabletop Role-Playing Game project, which I've been slowly baking for 16 years, and am finally working on releasing at some point this beginning of the year, I hope. I've also been working with this gentleman here in the chat, Red, who has been a good friend, and I have been working on him with Writer's Block, as well as also playing in his games of Bebop and the Big Easy, and also DM's channel. And eventually I'll be streaming myself again. That is it. What about you, Red?
Well, I run this show, obviously. This is impromptu. We're doing it off the air, like I said. Hopefully we can return to live if my ISP, like I said, gets their shit together. I'll cuss as much as I want. I'll bleep this out because I'm editing it anyway. And I'm frustrated. So hopefully this won't be the permanent format. But if it is, I would appreciate you folks supporting me on YouTube and what have you. This will go live on either platform. So if you're watching on one, you can watch on the other. Crazy, right? And the one thing I encourage you folks to do is still leave comments. I will read every single one of your comments, and we will address them on the Wednesday show or the midnight show. I don't even know if we're going to have a midnight show tonight, considering that my co-host for that is busy and internet. So probably no midnight show. I'm talking like I'm live right now. But regardless, I appreciate you guys.
Ideally, people can have dual monitors. They can watch them both at the same time.
True.
Nice.
That would be maximum viewership. That's a challenge.
Like, comment, subscribe, mash that follow button, hit the bell, have them on 2 screens at once. Get all your friends to watch it at the same time. Duct tape them to the chair if you have
to. Or we'll kill you.
Yes.
Is that too much?
No,
it'll get edited out. The threat can be edited out.
All right.
No, it's an idle. No, it's not.
Edited out.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll leave it in. I'll emphasize it. I'll compress it.
Bass boost it. Yeah, exactly.
I will end.
Like, comment, and survive.
I love that so much.
So
I hope I came up with that. I will be ashamed if I heard that out somewhere else, but
it's ours now. It's ours.
It is ours now. Yeah, thank you.
They can fight us for
it's
it.
Ours. So for folks that haven't seen this before and they're looking for a more palatable format, since it's on YouTube, this is Writer's Block, where we build worlds with words. I said that right first try. That blows my mind. This is an improv world building show where we're currently working on a world, and we invite guests on every single week to help us build said world, because obviously Omni and I aren't competent enough to do it by ourselves. So
think for yourself. No, I'm kidding.
But regardless, this is the first part of the show. Since there won't be a second part of the show where we take questions and stuff like that, because it's not live, we will just be doing an hour of just straight up world building. So if you folks just want to, yeah, that's hype. This is relaxing for me. Writing is a comfort zone thing for me, especially when I don't have to edit my book. Oh god. But
here's to that, boss.
See, I'm excited because I'm finally putting that linguistics degree to use. My parents were like, an English degree, that's a brilliant career move, and I was like, yeah.
I have a
So-
best friend who is an Arthurian lore scholar who recently has started retraining himself to be a therapist because he went through the academic sphere and was like, wow, you know, there are problems.
Well, I have a degree in the linguistics of English literature, so I DM 12 to 15 games a week. So that's pretty much where I'm at.
I mean, that's still really cool, though. Like, you know what? I got a culinary associates. What do I do with that? I cook every now and then. Like,
Oh, there you
I
go.
order out more
There
than
you go.
most people, probably.
Upload recipes to TikTok, you know.
I
You'll find
was
it.
thinking about doing something like that. I was just like, I don't
Yeah, why
know.
not, right? Like, do with Instagram. God, that's like 80% food anyway. I
Yuck.
upload food to Instagram. I'm that
Hey.
basic one.
Hey, that
And I'm a
D&D
visual artist. I have actual things to upload to Instagram, but I still put pancakes on it.
that D&D cookbook did really well. There's something there.
True. People like to
Okay.
cook, even if they're bad at cooking.
Exactly.
Or
What's
maybe
the tabletop
maybe they
game?
even suck at cooking. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not sponsored. I love that guy though.
Okay.
But so we are going to go around and we're going to give our 3 words, but we're going to do them one at a time. So Alec, excuse me. What is your first word, my man?
Okay, so I want to start with a crazy one, and then I have simpler ones down the road.
Go
But
ahead.
the
Man.
So I was watching a documentary about volcanoes and pyroclastic, which is like a form of lava flow.
Pyroclastic.
Good
Yes.
stuff right there.
That's a $3 word.
That's a fantasy word though. Like if
Oh,
I
yeah.
hear like, oh, the pyroclastic, I'm like, you have my attention. What is the rest of this sentence?
I'm sorry, this is a pyromancer? Is that what we're talking about? Talking about fire magic? Yes, please.
There's something there.
Hell yeah, I like that word. That's
Pretty sure pyroclastic slash or something is a magic card too. So like,
I think so.
sounds about right. Yeah.
I know it's a Zelda boss too. There's like a pyroclastic spider or something like that that does lava damage.
Was that was in
nice.
was that Skyward Sword? Anyway, whatever. Omni, what's your first word, my man?
God, man. After that,
Starting the bar up here.
yeah,
Way up
the
high.
funny thing is, my first word, I was like, you know, I'll just drop it. Burn.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's
So
It
like,
fits.
yeah, it does. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw a little fire in there. That'll be unique. We haven't had talked about fire too much. Pyroclastic out of the gate, man. What you doing to me?
Look, man, I'm not here to mess around. All right. I said I had
You
a
went
linguistics
straight for my
degree,
throat.
and I'm
You're right.
just attacking.
I can't wait to come up with like censorship sound effects, but like I came here and I sat the fuck down. I'm gonna give you some good words. So when you make a funny noise in the middle of the episode, I'll use that as a censorship thing. But my first word is switch.
Ooh. Actually, there's a lot that could be done with that.
Yeah, my brain first immediately went to the sexual preference variety because that's how I
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
So
Well, sure. I mean, it's either that or the Nintendo. But I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I'm already you got the brains going here. There's something
simple,
happening.
broad words, you know, like but if you have very specific words, it also, you know, both of those like do a really good job of like burning a train of thought into your head. So like
Exactly.
train
Oh
of
yeah.
thought.
If you give us an inch, we will literally take it on a 60-mile walk. So you're good.
Absolutely. So after switch, what is your next word? Is it gonna be something red related?
So this one is much simpler, and it's something that I think is ignored in a lot of worldbuilding, which is lumber.
Lumber. Okay, yeah, that's a really good one because I instantly think of like things like RTSs where you're like the first thing you're doing in that game is gathering lumber to build structures and stuff like that.
Exactly. It's
Trump,
such
son.
like necessary building block, but it's something people are like, trees, and then they just move on.
It literally is a building block, like by definition.
Yeah.
Lincoln
Yeah.
Logs. Also, when I
There's a
think
reason why
lumber,
the first thing you do is you punch wood in Minecraft. Like,
Yes.
It makes sense.
I won't.
Considering that the
Make a euphemism.
actual achievement for doing that the first time is
Get
called
wood.
you got wood.
Hell
like
yeah.
yeah, even the guys over Mojang know what's up with that.
No, but when I think of lumber, I also think of the like lumbering oafs, like a giant
like a
figure.
slow moving,
Like the
heavy.
gate. Yeah.
Like a
that's
lumbering switch. Anyway.
Like a lumbering gigantic lava monster. I mean,
Who happens to be a switch.
Lumbering
You know,
pyroclastic. That sounds like a magic
Yeah.
card.
if you
Obviously,
had a
magic
walking
cards.
volcano who could be a top or a bottom, then like we're already halfway there.
I mean, who's gonna judge him, right? You like really,
You gonna-
realistically, or survive the act.
Some volcanoes
Are you
do
gonna
like start as
insult them?
tops.
/ burn them? Huh?
Yeah.
How can you burn
if
them?
one of us has candle or wax as our word, we've ruined
Okay.
this episode, just straight up.
Well, no, like volcanoes start as tops, and then some of them like become bottoms, and they sink in on
Hey,
themselves.
see, now we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Now
but
we're
I feel
cooking
like
with
we're
kerosene.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, Omni, what's
And
your
this is the
second word?
benefit of if we edit this out, we're literally just gonna have a little segment that says like, there was an interesting conversation here, but you don't get to hear it.
Don't worry, I'll put really funny music over that too. I'm not editing any of this out.
Yeah.
I'll edit out some cuss words in the first 10 minutes, but that's about it.
Fair.
What's your second word?
Oh, God.
Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Fortress, actually.
Fortress.
Ooh.
Yeah.
like that.
Last session we talked a lot about world building. I kind of like the idea of like, let's narrow that biz down a little more too. Let's start cranking out localities.
So you had an opportunity to say Fortnite. This episode's brought to you, but no, I'm kidding. But
I know, yeah, not sponsored.
not sponsored.
We're-
Hey, if
we're
anybody
not
wants to
dead mouse.
sponsor me, I want World Amble and I want Grammarly. Those are the two. I actually use Grammarly on stream, and I use World Amble to put in all the stuff on the pretty things. Yeah. But
Oh yeah.
I like Fortress. First thing that comes to mind is Dwarf Fortress and Team Fortress
Sure.
too.
See, for me, I've been thinking a lot about fortresses for the setting, and that's partly because I've been sort of preparing my the ideas for the my little world building side thing of building glass wall.
Yeah.
And the first thing I was thinking of was like, how do they protect themselves? Because this is a really uncomfortable world. So fortresses have been on my mind. I've been literally looking at everything from fantasy fortresses like Helm's Deep and the Red Keep to literally like actual historical fortresses.
See, Helm's Deep's a euphemism. Like, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
true,
I mean,
The whole movie is a euphemism, like
Right.
straight up.
true.
So,
Helm's Deep's a sexual euphemism. Anyway, so.
it's like
what?
diversion quick. I just want to say, you know what blew my mind? I just found out today. You know why Isengard is called Isengard? It guards the
Oh.
River Isen.
yeah.
I didn't know
That makes
till
sense.
today.
That checks. That checks out. Like.
Yeah, no, it totally reads, but I feel like a total idiot for not realizing that and having read Lord of the Rings for literally 30 years. Anyway.
Well, I have one addendum to that, which is Treebeard, who his actual name is Fangorn, which is the forest,
Forest,
is named after him. But Treebeard is based off of C.S. Lewis, so of course friends with
Oh,
Tolkien.
yeah, I've heard that.
And I love the idea
Right.
that he's like, oh well, I based Baron and Luthien off of my wife and myself. He's like, but C.S., I have to tell you, I have a character based off of you. He's an annoying douche who never gets to the point.
Those
But it
two
gets a
loved each
cool
other.
fight scene.
Yeah.
Uh,
I wonder how C.S. Lewis took reading Treebeard and being like, huh,
That's just like
Yeah.
me, that asshole. I think my word is going to be track.
ooh, track.
'Cause track has a lot of
Right.
connotations, a lot of different meanings.
Well, I mean, I also like to think of like even very, very ancient cultures have like some system of like tracks and pulleys and even like simple railways to, like move things from place to place. So if you're building a fortress, that's going to be essential.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
no, absolutely. And I also think of track, I think of like hunter-gatherers, like tracking animals and stuff like that.
Of
Or
course,
even tracking
of course.
humans, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
But I believe that is going to be, Alec, this is going to be your last word.
Ooh, the pressure. Okay.
Pressure be a good word.
Well,
Pressure, great word. Thanks. Okay, bye.
pressure.
No.
Okay, that is a good one. Um,
You could go ahead.
the one that I think would fit the best for this is sustain.
Oh,
Nice.
sustain. That actually has a
Yeah.
lot in common with lumber.
Yeah, it's
sustainable. Yeah.
if you are thinking of like, okay, we have this place here now. We're setting up a civilization. We need to maintain it and hold out and thrive as long as possible. What lengths will you go to sustain yourself?
Yeah, no, that's a really good train of thought.
I think that's a key part of any culture is like what they're willing to put up with.
Like how far
Right.
they're willing to go. Yeah, no, I really
Exactly.
like that word. That's a strong finishing word from you. Oh god, the most stereotypical classical song kicked in. Sorry. I'm not basic, I promise. Omni, what is your last word, my man?
The last word that I have is actually thunder.
Thunder.
I blame that entirely on a Lion-O meme I saw earlier today. But genuinely speaking, I love like the idea of exploring nature and the impact. I think of thunder not merely as the weather, but like as an omen of things to come, an indicator of distant danger, and seems appropriate for our setting. Like I literally have tried to imagine like being in our setting more than once, and I literally can't imagine anything better than a gray sky. Like this is a world perpetually in crap autumn or rainy season or winter. I've never seen spring or summer in my head.
I like crap autumn.
Well, the thing I like about thunder is if you look at culture, like there's so many cultures like the Norse and the Greek that have gods of thunder,
Right.
and it's like okay, Thor is the thunder god. It's like okay, yeah, he gets lightning stuff, but like thunder is such a much more impressive bit. And when before we kind of realize like okay, these are not two separate things. Lightning and thunder are part of the same process, but it's like thunder also is like even in literary terms is always used like boom, this is a realization. Thunder is always an omen of things to come, but also like people realizing what the hell is actually happening. There's a sense of enlightenment almost to thunder.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and thunder's a lot more, like you were saying, thunder's a lot more impressive than lightning, because lightning you see it for like a couple of seconds, but thunder like lasts and reverberates.
Exactly.
And you feel it in like a quarter-mile radius.
It does sustain.
Yeah,
you are incredibly correct. Oh god, we're good at this.
See?
Let me
right here.
Let me look on my magical book of words, which is an Amazon receipt. Let's see here.
Nice. I actually finally found my cue cards, so I'm doing this for real.
Cue cards?
I'm just using the old
I got like 80 cards for when I used to run Legacy and have like side missions, and I'd have them all written on the cards.
Let me grab a big book of wisdom from my shelf without hopefully knocking everything off said shelf.
I actually shocked some of my players when they're like, how much notes do you have for a game? Like, how much do you prep? And I was like, I have nothing. It's all off the top of the dome. I don't write down nothing.
My big book of wisdom is The Walking Dead Compendium 2.
Ooh, nice.
Immediately I found a word I like. Forgotten.
Okay. Ooh, forgotten.
That's a good one. Oh, that's so good for the setting.
I love that.
But what is forgotten? My internet
What's
about
remembered?
me. What is remembered? Yeah, no, because like what is forgotten and what is remembered? Those are salt and pepper. You can't have one without the other. Usually.
Right.
Well, I mean, the entire study of history is trying to remember what we forgot in the past, like what we didn't write down, what we don't know.
Those dumb bastards that burned down the Library of Alexandria don't realize how difficult they made it for us to understand what was going on back then.
Yeah.
And the 23 city-states named Alexandria. Thank you, Alexander the Great. Anyway, so from here we're gonna sort of narrow down our trains of thought. I don't know why I keep saying that, but I gotta do a choo-choo every time I do it. But so
as long as it's not tiny and secret, we're good.
True.
Yeah.
Tiny secret locomotives. That's where we draw the line. So,
Yes.
Alec, are any of these words like immediately jutting out to you? You can pick your own. If you have if you have something that you're thinking of immediately with one of your own words, by all means.
Well, I am obsessed with thunder. I love that. Definitely,
thunder
there's
as
something
well.
there. I mean, obviously, I like pyroclastic, but I'm gonna start off with thunder because like I said, there's so much in terms of metaphor, but also in the literal sense of thunder, and even how like magic reverberates, or how like cultures will remember things and keep omens, and there's a million things you can do with thunder.
And I immediately think of I just had another thought about thunder. The Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury, the thing where the
Oh,
butterfly
man.
effect comes from in time travel.
Exactly, because he gets the butterflies stuck to his boot.
Yep, and it's just like, oh, everything's fucked, and then they go and then they shoot him. Man, I just spoiled that. Sorry.
Spoiler for
I'll put a big spoiler alert.
70-year-old book.
It's like
good.
it's like 6,000 words. Just go read it. Like
SpongeBob literally did an episode about this. Like, you're fine. If SpongeBob did it, you're well in the clear. It's
yeah, but they weren't like
social
going back in
zeitgeist
time to
achieved.
hunt dinosaurs.
I don't think that they like wasted SpongeBob in the show, but yeah, I mean, I will say Sound of Thunder is one of the better Ray Bradbury stories out there.
Personally,
That
my
makes you
favorite
think.
because it has so much influence.
Yeah. My immediate thought though is, if you think of magic in terms of like, okay, the actual creation or someone manipulating magic or someone using like the energy flows of the world, like you have the lightning, which is the actual effect, and then you have like what comes off of that, like making shockwaves out in the world, which would be thunder. It's like, what after effects do you have to worry about? What reverberations come off of that? Like, what, and to throw in my own word, it's like, what sustains with that changes things. Like, I always love anytime there's like a big cause and effect and there's like a weight and a heft to magic, or to even not just magic, even like sword play. Like, you have to think of the consequences of what you're doing. And to me, that's perfectly thunder.
Absolutely, and I really like I really like how you're thinking about that. The whole idea is just like, yeah, there's this really sudden and strong effect, but what comes after, like what's left behind because of that, what's like roiling from that center point outward. You know, that's a lot of things that a lot
Same
of
thing they say. Like, a lot of the most damage after an earthquake isn't the earthquake itself; it's the aftershocks. It's like
yeah.
the continued are the ones that cause the most damage.
Omni, what is your second word of choice? Or first word of choice?
So strong with thunder, and they're all so good. I'm not going to toot my own horn. I actually really like sustain. That's a really good word, and I think I like the idea of it on every level. The communities in AES are all struggling to survive. Resources are limited. How much can you make do with what you have? What can you get from the blasted wastes around you, or the environment you've managed to find, that little pocket of stability? And beyond even that, what carries from generation to generation? Those impacts we mentioned, whether they be cultural, magical. Because again, the tethered in this setting we're not dealing with like your garden variety whiz bang like sorcerer or wizard where they pull out a book and they read from an ancient scroll and they get an exact prescription for how to alter reality. They're channeling insane arcane power from the stars that they can barely control. What they really are is a copper wire completing a circuit.
Yeah,
and they just let it flow. And so, yeah, no, the impact of that would be huge. Feeling the thunder, and what would that do? What sustains everything?
It makes me think in Game of Thrones when they say something like, magic is like using a sword without a handle. Like, it's dangerous because you're going to cut yourself, but if you're surrounded by wolves, it's better than having nothing.
Right.
That's true.
So plus, we've hinted at it destroying civilization or having a huge part in the end of all things. So, why not, right? Let's run with it. Sustain! Yeah.
I like that.
The word that I like, Fortress is very, like, hard world building, in the sense that just, like, you know exactly what it's going to be, because, like, that's something that we just know what it is. And Fortress is a word, it's just like, yep, that is literally set in stone. So...
literally, it's actually
set in stone. Literally in more ways than one. Like, but
the foundations are in fact stone and mortar. I want
to say Forgotten, because Forgotten's such a it's more of an ambiguous word. You know, just like very. It's it has a lot of connotations, and you could easily tie it into the other words that we've, the other 2 words that we've gotten so far. And we're gonna have 3 more. So,
Yeah, fair.
Alec, what's you next, man?
Okay. Well, oh man, I still love Pyroclastic, but I'm gonna actually say Switch because I think that, like, obviously, we can go with the more ridiculous versions of it, but what I think it in a mechanical sense, like
Mm,
little simple machines, levers, pulleys, switches, basic little, fulcrums and things like that. Those are the absolute building blocks of any society. Without however many simple tools, it's like you can't get anything actually accomplished and build a civilization. It's like a switch, or even if you think in historical terms, a switch of, like, you have this big cataclysm, switch, boom, what is life like after that, which still fits in with, like, that thought of what sustains, what's the thunder after effects of something, what is forgotten, which was before that switch, of like how culture has changed.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, man. And I feel like that is something that people don't often think about. It's just like what had to change in order for people to survive, and that
Yeah.
like they had to give up a lot of things that we might not even be thinking about on the norm. So, yeah, switch is it can be a hard word or it can be a soft word. There's a lot of that's the beauty of the English language, even though it's like a cluster sometimes and it's really hard to understand. There's a lot of interpretiveness to the language. So
turns out complexity is useful sometimes.
sometimes.
So,
All right, Omni, what is yours, my man? The next word.
Gotta admit, I'm torn. I really love Pyroclastic. I even found a video of it, which is, by the way, like, even if we don't use it, I'm showing you guys the video. It's
the coolest.
phenomenal.
Like I said, I saw a documentary about volcanoes and I was like, oh my god, Pyroclastic, what a word. And they're like showing the lava flow, and I'm like, oh my god.
What stuns me is that it can be subterranean. So it's just like, imagine an avalanche, one of the worst things ever. Now imagine if it had fire under it. Liquid fire. Just hell deciding to casually wipe out a part of the world.
Yeah.
But I'm also tied between lumber and Pyroclastic. Because lumber is such a building block. And we were talking about, like, we're building between what's forgotten, the effects of things, and also, like, how to endure. And lumber is a literal building block. It is the creation of things. And it also presents a static resource. I'm going to go with lumber. Right. But with epic props to Pyroclastic. Like, it is number 3 if I get number 3.
Okay, put lumber down, and well, I feel like I'm Johnny on the spot now because I get to pick the last word. Feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't pick Pyroclastic. Burn and Pyroclastic sort of go together in that sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, fuck it. We'll do Pyroclastic.
Yay.
Such a good word.
Such a good word.
Even in the end.
This is why I'm here.
We appreciate you, man.
You have delivered unto us a $5 word.
Sometimes my own genius. I'm not like that. That's a joke. That is a joke to anyone. I'm not like that.
I'm so brilliant, I astound myself.
I think I spend a good 5 minutes every morning looking in the mirror saying, moron, why are you like this?
Just be kind. Be kind to yourself. Mirror self might appreciate it occasionally. You don't know what mirror self is going through.
Yeah.
Mirror self.
Mirror self needs to get his act together. That's what I'll tell you.
They need to get out there and get seen. Anyway, so what's our
Jesus.
What's our first for
that
this?
double pun at the end, man? Oh my god. What do you think, Chief? What do you got, Alec?
Okay. So let's go back through this again. So we have Pyroclastic, lumber, forgotten, switch. my god, my brain. Thunder and sustain.
Yes.
Yes.
Like I said, the thing that I can't have leave my brain that I keep thinking is like cataclysms or like some kind of huge effect, right?
Yeah.
And how there's the initial, and then there's like that little kind of, just meniscus like right in between, and then like the long term after effects that's what we live in now.
Yeah.
So I think of like if I think switch, I'm like, okay, I think of like you could literally have a period of time like referred to as the switch. Like this is the moment where we had the before times and then now. It's like everything since that. There's it was the same way Mishima said, like, if you have a lion who grew up in captivity, he knows that there's the world in the cage and the world outside the cage. But there's no third world beyond that. It's those two things. So
Right.
it's like you have before. I'm almost thinking it's like, okay, you have kind of like the pyroclastic, like the lava flow, the huge impending ridiculous cataclysm, and then boom, switch. Now we have the thunder, like a period of time that describes this sustained, like this just like long movement afterward.
By the way, this is the link to the videos we did just mention pyroclastic of what a pyroclastic flow looks like.
Okay.
It is a minute 12 if you want to browse it super fast.
I'll definitely be putting it in the description.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Like also it's fair warning, it is watching like a town be destroyed, so content warning. It is destruction, obviously. As if volcanoes wouldn't.
Yeah.
Destroy.
Yeah. Hey, I wonder what happens when a volcano explodes close enough for someone with a video camera to record it. But
well, like you were even saying, like, yeah, it can go underground, which is almost as terrifying thing of like you have like the town and then the lava flows underneath it, and then the town starts slipping into lava and they don't understand why, which is the most terrifying thing. Like lava coming at you is terrifying. Lava suddenly coming up from beneath you is much more terrifying.
So where would they have to worry about something like that? Or have they like built things to accommodate for that, or are they just like completely like Pompeii-esque, like naive? They don't understand like what's gonna happen.
Well, volcanoes in places with a lot of ash and lava flow, it's super nutrient rich soil. So even if they know the risks, they might be willing to deal with it and be like, well, it's dormant, it's fine, or we have a good warning system to handle it. Or they might just be completely ignorant and be like, man, all the crops grow great around here. This is, oh man, this is fantastic. Look at all this great. And then they're like, oh god, the sky is exploding.
And it cuts both ways too, because this is a thing I recently learned as I was watching a homesteading thing, because going to build a tiny house, you got to be aware of things. And one of the things I was watching was apparently a couple in Hawaii were dealing with a volcano recently erupting, and it effectively wiped off their initial homestead. And they were like, okay, well, it should be good for farming afterward, right? And they're like, you don't understand. Our entire area is now volcanic glass. Nothing will grow there. It's like 2 feet deep. So, like, it can utterly... It'll leave a lot of beautiful nutrients in some places, and in other places, it's literally a scene out of Halo after they glass planted. So, it's nuts. Either way, it's transformative is what it is. It turns fertile locations into glass. It turns absolutely barren locations into fertile oases. It's nuts.
That also makes me think of like what was there, because this is obviously a volcano isn't a one and done. Like it usually is going to be a cycle of eruptions. So if you had like a fortress or a civilization or something impressive there that was destroyed by this lava, and then they've like rebuilt on top of it, but they don't remember what the old stuff down there is. They're like, oh yeah, we know that but it's buried under mountains of lava and ash and volcanic glass, and no one can get down there, but we know it's full of great stuff. Like that's pretty much,
I like that. What if the Switch was a historical event for a city? Like, I like the idea. Like, so we're building up to like a volcano thing. obviously.
Yeah.
Like
We have
this is the
Volcano
place...
City. Like that's kind of what we're
Yeah,
building
exactly.
right
Like
Yeah.
place near or by a volcano. What if the city survived, but the leadership didn't? So
that.
like I'm thinking of like an idea of like, you know, a city built into the wall, like into the side of a mountain or something for protection. And or like on the top of a mountain. And when the thing erupts, it only consumes the center of the city, which was on top of this mountain or whatever. And that's where all the leadership was. So 1 minute you have a king and a queen or whatever authoritarian figures that rule over the place, and the next minute everyone's like, so that's fire, vaguely where everything that told us where to live is? How do we deal with this now?
See, I wonder if you have someone like if you have a tethered, like you have someone who can like kind of with raw, incredible, intense power manipulate the world, but at this huge cost to themselves and everything around them. They're like, I'm sick of the leadership here. This is ridiculous, and they decide to be like, well, I'm going to do something about it. But what they don't realize is they're on top of a dormant volcano, but they cause this huge horrific eruption and they take out the king and queen, but they also wipe out like a third of the city in this gigantic, lava flow that they can't stop.
So people are just
And
in
that's-
hysterics after
Yeah,
that.
and
Like,
that's the switch. It's like you're like, oh yeah, that's yeah. When the switch happened, like, yep, changed the laws real fast. The first and only law was get away from all of the fire coming towards you.
It literally the Red Wedding, but like a trillion times worse with actual fire and just one
Yes.
really pissed off tethered. And there is
Exactly.
precedent for that too. Like we have discussed in the past the idea that tethered are so powerful that there are probably some cities that are literally just ruled by a tethered who just doesn't have any meaningful opposition. And we have
Raid-
fire tethered. The Crucible is a canonical tethered name.
And
So-
even if you have a group of tethered, like I definitely think if it's something that you don't realize what you're sitting on top of, and you're like, well, we're gonna call down this storm to like really, we'll show them, and then like it's almost that kind of like lightning and thunder effect of like boom, the spell hits, but the thunder is all of the lava coming down at you. You're like, oh god, we did not realize that this was on top of a volcano. What have we done?
Or they thought they could control the volcano.
Yeah.
Maybe they literally thought they could control a volcano and they uncork it, get their immediate result, and be like, yeah, perfect. Why isn't it stopping?
That's more lava than I expected it would be.
I have like this image of like the superheated gas that came out of Pompeii because I've done a little bit of research on Pompeii, and God, that must have been terrifying. Like the superheated
yeah.
gas like coming at people. I can imagine there's like a statue of a tethered like with his hand forward, his or her or they, doesn't matter. They had their hand forward and they're just sort of stuck in a position like stop, and it didn't work. So
Oh yeah.
and people are
If
just
you-
kind of worship
yeah.
it now.
All
Like
of
they tried.
the plaster people that they have in Pompeii now. It's like someone was like, big mistake.
I love the idea. I love the idea of that statue. What if it's hovering over the epicenter of where that horrible thing is,
Ooh.
literally like flying up there, still suspended with the last spell, but dead. Literally, it's like
Yes.
almost like a glitch in a video game. Just like one stone figure hovering over the mountain, hand down, trying to stop it, and stuck.
It could definitely be a local thing of like, yeah, we consider trying to get it down, but what if that accidentally causes all of it to explode again? So we'll just leave it up there.
Or God forbid, under the stone, somehow it's alive. Like,
yes, which would be the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Tethered are monstrous by most people's standards. Like, they're tactically useful, but in the same way that a nuclear arm is tactically useful. You don't want it in your house, hanging at you at the dinner table. So, like, same thing.
That's the same thing you think of like sustain is like it's still there. So it's almost kind of like the thing is it's terrifying and it's this memory of like, oh man, look at this destruction that the tethered are capable of. But it's also a deterrent, the same way you think of like a nuclear deterrent. Like, yeah, don't fuck with us because look at that thing up there. See, the last time someone tried to push us around? See that? Yeah.
We have a tentative name for this civilization. Hubris. They
love
just call the city hubris.
I love that.
Is that a word that we didn't get to last?
I don't know, but if it
Oh,
didn't,
we used it a little bit.
Yeah.
The
So
city
if we
of
weren't,
hubris.
we'd used it last session, but we haven't used it as a location yet.
That's
and
fine. It's called the city of hubris now.
Yeah,
love
I
it.
love that. And I also think that like there has to be after effects of this explosion, and it's like, okay, if the world is constantly, dark and gloomy, like hubris has to have eternal storm clouds over it, just constantly thunder and lightning, and just like this roiling storm perpetually stuck there, the same way that this statue is stuck there.
It might
I
be
don't know
one
if
of
you've ever
those.
seen,
I'm sorry, go on.
like those volcanoes have the massive lightning storms over them, like constantly, which is something a
Oh,
lot
I
of
like
people
it.
forget about.
So the volcanic, maybe that's what happened. The tethered couldn't stop the lava. The tethered did stop the volcanic ash, but it's just stuck up there now, behind
Yeah.
it.
So it's just
Yeah,
like kept
it's
at
like-
bay in like a really uneasy balance. It's like 5 minutes to midnight. Nobody knows if it's gonna like just destroy everything or not.
Yeah, but the
Right.
people of hubris are like, yeah, no, we know that we are literally like this is a time bomb right above us, but we're gonna be here and no one is gonna tell us what to do, because like, what? Come and mess with us. Well, this thing goes off. It's taking us with you, so we don't care. It's pure hubris.
Love that. I love that a lot.
I also it's
So-
sort of like a it's like Megaton and Fallout where they just have the nuke in the middle of the town and they're just kind of like
Yeah.
it's there. Like they're just super
Should
casual
we
about it.
disarm this? Probably.
We haven't really
Are we
found anybody
gonna-
that's like capable of disarming it, It's like
Yeah.
Yeah, God, what a terrible way to live. Literally just live somewhere else at that point. Jeez.
Well,
Like,
no,
I'd take my-
think about it. At least it'd be a painless death. You wouldn't feel anything. It just happens. So it's not really that big of a deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's better than
Uh,
having some raider walk up to you and rip your eyes out of your head. Like,
I guess that's fair.
I do also think of like, okay, so we had even said lumber, like, and like I said, it's very nutrient rich. So like you have sections of the city that were destroyed and are inaccessible and like have buried secrets and treasure. You have like sections that people live and they've built up new places, over time. But then they have all this beautiful nutrient rich, like massive lumber. They could build like, we have the best trees, we have the best, lumber, like we have all these supplies, but we get to make the deals. No one gets to come to us and try to negotiate. We decide what prices everything is because, again, we are literally living under a giant volcanic time bomb, and they're like, it's certainly a level of this kind of city or culture like pride of like, yeah, we this is a nightmare hell right above us, and we don't care.
I could see that. That would definitely be a useful tactical thing. Like, one of the first things I like to think of when we're talking about a city-state is what's its dysfunction? Because, like, as a base rule, for me and Red, like, it's... What was the one we said? Like, nothing is free?
yeah,
Like,
everything's a
like-
quid pro quo.
yeah. So, you have a stable city-state, there's something wrong with it. If it has neighbors, it can't have a perfect relationship, or even a good relationship. There's something significantly wrong with every interaction, and that literally could be this city's problem.
Yeah.
Its advantage and its disadvantage is that this city doesn't take shit from anyone. It's hard to negotiate with. They're super stubborn, and anytime that you threaten, because with other city-states, the solution to that would be I threaten you with invasion, to which they're like, cool, go ahead. We'll all die just to give you the middle finger.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I have met people who like there is that sense of like, oh no, I would burn down my apartment building just to spite my neighbor. They're like, we'll both be homeless, but like, I don't care.
I mean, we're both Floridians, so like, yeah, no, we definitely know those people.
You guys have
Like,
that Florida energy.
But that kind of like cultural stubbornness of like, oh yeah, no, I've accepted my fate a long time ago, so you have to deal with me. And that's kind of, there's a beauty to that.
Right. What does the man who has nothing have to
Yeah.
fear? Right.
But I think, like I said, if they're in that nutrient-rich soil, having the best lumber around that, like, no one can even dispute this. Like, look, it's the best. It's the strongest. It grows the fastest. It's incredible. But if you want to buy some, you got to deal with this huge pack of jerks.
I feel like these guys would be almost like a gang. Like they wouldn't be controlled in the way that they wouldn't have like a monarchy or some sort of like representative force.
No,
They'd have
it's-
just a warlord that's just kind of like, I control this shit. You want to get anything?
Oh,
You got to
it's-
get through me.
Oh, it's a pure, like, Lord Humongous meritocracy. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's definitely like if someone comes in like just walk away, like it's certainly a meritocracy of, like, the strongest survives, the biggest, toughest, meanest bastard is the one who rules all the other bastards.
Have you ever watched The Expanse?
Of course.
Okay, then you know what I'm about to say. The OPA. The Outer Planets Alliance in The Expanse are. I'm going to keep it brief. The Outer Planets Alliance is basically all the humans out in the belt who have formed an ad hoc political alliance. They're not really a nation state. They're not even close. What they really are is a series of gangsters and cartels and smugglers, mercenary groups, basically terrorist political activists, all sorts of folks who've all thrown their names in under the same brand umbrella to have anything vaguely resembling the kind of political sway that Earth and Mars has in the solar system. And they literally are run by a committee of the most utterly mismatched maniacs and savvy political operatives. And it literally looks like if someone tried to make a government out of the cantina scene in Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I mean, any pirate court government is always going to be my favorite. I mean, you think of like it's like hubris wouldn't necessarily be like a city state in the sense of like, oh well, this is, they have a government, this and that. It's kind of like, oh god, the pack of maniacs that rule hubris. It's just a series of horrible gangsters who have all just kind of like constant Mexican standoff with each other. Like, all right, nobody make a wrong move, and then they're like, or if you even think of like Genghis Khan, who he went to all of Mongolia and he's like, look, we're really good at killing each other. We're really good at it. But what if, and go with me on this, we all teamed up and they killed everybody else? And they're like, oh, genius. And so, like, he ruled the biggest empire of all time. So, like, hubris, I can see that sense of, like, if they had the right leader, it'd be the most terrifying city-state out there. But they're too crazy to ever find the one single dude who could unite all of hubris.
See that?
So they're sort of in like a perpetual scenario, just like if they had the right person, they would be like dominating everything. The only thing I could think of to draw a parallel from is World War II in Germany. Like if you had somebody competent in power in Germany, we'd be in a really bad way even right now. But the fact that they had an idiot in power is what made Germany weak. Like,
what was it? Winston Churchill said something to the effect of like, oh, we considered assassinating Hitler many, many times, but we finally stopped because we realized his bad decisions were leading to Germany's downfall. So they just let him keep going.
yeah, that was
like,
that was at the meeting of the three. That was literally like he said that to like Stalin and FDR, and he's just like, probably a bad idea.
I mean, anything that involves dead Nazis is good to me. So I think that like,
Amen.
Big mood. Yeah.
I think that like definitely it's like it's a meritocracy, but it also has almost that kind of oligarch sense of like these people who have money and power, but not in like, oh, look at all the wealth I've acquired, but like I have the big gang and we have these crazy weapons, and I have the big gang and one person's like, oh, I have this and I have this, and then they all kind of like, all right, we'll kind of agree, but they're always working to backstab each other and be horrible.
Goblin government.
Yeah.
Yep.
If, like I said, I love things like that. It's like if they could get their shit together, they'd be terrifying. But the way they are now, they're just kind of a little terrifying.
Right.
So we've gotten Pyroclastic, which is obviously the event that led to this place being as screwed up as it is. We have Lumber, sort of like their resource, their claim to fame, and we have Switch, which is what happened. What they're calling it, between like the disparity or the switch between power from the monarchy to these gang lords, essentially. So that's 3.
Yeah.
We
Those
had
are good.
Sustain, Thunder, and forgot. We actually already kind of used Thunder. Thunder's sort of like
Yeah,
tied
yeah,
in there.
Thunder.
So
Yeah, it's
Sustain?
just a huge sustain is kind of like that's kind of the power in hubris is like I think that would be the motto of the people who live there on just a day to day, like the people who aren't these gang leaders. Like there's just this code of like if you think of post-war Britain that they had that keep calm and carry on. Like the people of hubris are just like sustain, just keep going, just maybe someday there'll be another switch and we'll be out of this hell. But for the time being, it's all we have.
It also might be how they've maintained power. Like, if this is a pirate court, like there's a reason why pirate courts worked. Because we always like to think of, in the modern age of like, our looking back on pirates, we think of like the Pirates of the Caribbean, where it's a room full of cutthroats and murderers, and they're all gonna try to kill each other at the first drop of a hat. What it really was a bunch of folks who were like, the bulk of us are ex-military. Pretty much every single one of us left because we were either forced to or that we literally couldn't survive. None of us really want to be here, and none of us really want to hurt each other because it's not profitable. I don't want to pay someone to hack my leg off with like a rusty saw, which is also the same exact saw they used to repair the ship. So they were largely, what it really was stable democracies, and actually stable democracies, because they had to get things done. Because if your crew doesn't like what you do, then they're not going to kill you. They're just going to vote you off as captain. Then you get to be crew for a while, or get kicked off the ship. Neither is particularly appealing to a person with a huge share of the treasure. So what if when this all happened, and the center just kind of went kablooey and the switch happened? What survived were the guilds. Like, if this is a tiered city on top of a mountain, and the center just gets cored out, like the inside of a donut, then what you have is the outer ring of all the craftsmen and habitation where people live. So each little section was processing the lumber and then shipping it out. So to negotiate, they all go to the center in the shadow of hubris to negotiate on like the glasslands with each other, like whatever the leaders are. And that's what they have to do, because if any one part of the city fails, they don't get lumber out. They all need each other, unfortunately.
Yeah, like I said, it's that kind of like that constant, very kind of like you have that immediate tense like Mexican standoff style of like everyone just like pointing at each other and like, okay, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to figure this out? And then you kind of begin to build this meritocracy of people being like, all right, well, we have to work together and figure this out because we are this. I mean, this clearly has plenty of good and bad. And right after the switch happens, then they're like figuring new laws and new democracies. But there's like I said, I like that idea of like a motto of it becomes sustain. Because clearly the original system wasn't working. It literally collapsed in on itself because the tether just went nuts that he couldn't handle this nonsense anymore.
Right.
And now he's stuck up there forever. So it's like the motto becomes like the way that the tethered is holding this storm at bay 24/7, perpetually stuck in like as a volcanic ash statue. The motto of hubris just becomes sustain. Like you think of like the Iron Islands in Game of Thrones, it's like we do not sow. It's like this just sense of like, no, it's like hubris sustains.
I like that.
Hubris sustains.
There's
There's so much irony in just that statement alone.
It's exactly hubris sustains. I mean, it's
and the
the
people
way
probably know it too. Like that's probably it's a double entendre locally.
Yeah, it's a local joke. I mean, it's like the way you think of like Warhammer. They say like, oh yeah, Cadia stands. Cadia was split in half because a Blackstone fortress cracked it. But there's still now on other planets the remaining Cadians like Cadia stands. No, it doesn't.
It's
But they end
gone.
up saying that because that's the motto. So it's
The
like,
Emperor protects, except for like 99.99999% of you. Y'all gonna be dead. That other person, he's fine. She's fine.
but
Maybe.
so that just becomes the motto of life of this like this kind of local joke of hubris sustains.
I like that.
We did on a previous episode. We did come up with a like a sort of society that's like that lives in just this constant storm, like this constant dust storm. These guys sound like they would be like the head honchos of this. Like they sound like they would be like the perpetrator of being the ones that go around like gathering storm and like they're the good guys because they're preventing the apocalypse from happening again, but they're exploiting everybody around them in the process. So it's like, are they really the good guys? Like, they might be the goodest you're gonna get, but you know, everybody's looking out for their own self-interest.
I can see that. Like, and honestly, it makes sense. Like, you know, if this world is like is what is it, 5 minutes to midnight, and
Yeah.
like everyone's having to hold back the hand in some way. Whether it be like, you know, stopping a new world war, because that really wouldn't be that hard. That would just be enough city-states fighting with one another that everyone starts fighting again. Or like, you know, giant ash cloud maybe don't bring about like localized nuclear winter and plunge a whole region into death. You know, there's like everyone's got their death clock they're fighting against, and no other city-state's really that aware of it until they come there and like, wow, even this place is when I thought I lived under bad circumstances.
There is something, I think, that to a certain extent it becomes this learned helplessness that people kind of find a beauty in, like, oh well, we live under this hellstorm, but at least I know how I'm going to go out. So it's kind of like they accept it. There's like almost a sense of calm with the people of hubris who live there because, like I said, it's that joke, hubris sustains. So they're like, well, what threat do I have in the world? What do I have to worry about? Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
have
just
no
like
worse than that.
yeah. It's like oh, you have a sword? Look at this. I mean, come on. You think I care?
Mine's bigger.
a sword.
Yeah.
No, just the idea of that these people, and you know the way there is hubris in this because like these people find comfort in knowing where their destruction is probably going to come from. They just know it's going to be coming, and that's.
I also
Go on.
Well, I was gonna say, I also think of, if you think of like the laconic wit, like the old Spartans had the very very dry humor. I feel like that would be a staple of hubris. Like I remember when I want to say the Persians came, or no, it was actually Alexander the Great's father. He said, "Oh, if we come into Laconia, like we come into into Sparta and this and that, he's like, we'll crush your people and enslave your women and do this and that." And their messenger sent back the word "if," which is like, yeah, if you come in. And it's like that. I think that brings me to the Forgotten. So it's kind of like, it's like, oh yeah, we had this great, incredible civilization, and it is gone. It's forgotten. This is what we have now. And it's like, and if you try to mess with us, that's what will happen to you. You will be forgotten because you will be buried under ash and lava, and no one will ever know you existed. It's that
metal.
perfect sense of like anyone who deals with them the same way that Romans considered anyone who didn't speak Latin to like, oh, they're barbarians. They just say barbar all the time. It's like to the hardcore people in hubris, they're like, everyone else is just forgotten because that's all they'll ever be, is forgotten.
I love the fact that we're talking about a civilization. Let's be real. It sounds pretty belligerent to outsiders.
Yeah.
Like, but it's not like these guys have the organization to properly build a true army or military force. They probably have like hordes of gangs, or like each little individual lord probably has their own defenses or whatever. But they're probably not that impressive compared to other city-states. But these guys have the audacity to be the person who walks into the room, like literally the Joker in Dark Knight Rises, walking into a room, commanding the room, insulting someone's mom, and being like, yeah, no, you can try, but I'm the only idiot who came in with a suicide vest.
Yeah, just like all the grenades.
Yeah, these guys don't walk in with a bigger sword or a bigger stick or a better negotiating position. They walk in with a suicide vest on their chest. They're like, I mean, you invited us in. You know what we were going to bring. And everyone's like, God, just we're not even close enough for you to actually damage us with this. Just don't kill yourselves, Jesus. Like we need your wood to build our fortress every year because of the winter. Please don't annihilate our best lumber source.
It's like, oh yeah, we will destroy the world economy and kill ourselves just to spite you. It's like we'll lose the battle, but we'll win the war.
These are the pettiest fucking people in AS.
They're Floridians.
Exactly. Yeah. There's something beautiful about being that petty. You know?
There's elegance in it, I think.
But like I said, it really makes me think of the Spartans. Like, Spartans didn't have the biggest army. They had, I mean, compared to the rest of Greece, it's like, come on, you know. But the thing is, they were dedicated and they cared. And so I think it's like, oh, if you have all these like small gangs, like almost paramilitary, you know, each little kind of like regional neighborhood warlord has his own like little group and gang. Some of it could be a group of like 10 people, other ones it could be like a few hundred or a couple thousand. But like if they all united, like I said, like the Mongols, it would be a problem for everyone else.
Right. That would be that'd be like a fully fledged city-state at that point.
Yeah.
Like, it almost sounds like they're not like a true city-state. They're kind of just content playing like they're not as big as the others because they don't need that infrastructure. They don't need to have an army. Why? Who's going to invade them?
Yeah,
like,
it's
really, who wants to invade under that?
Well, like, the way I'm thinking of it is like, is there an outside force keeping them from uniting, or is it literally just their own stubbornness?
I imagine it's got to be a bit of both. So, like, their own stubbornness, sure, will play a huge part, probably the majority role in that. But there has to be people coming in from outside, infiltrating, like, I like to think, almost propaganda style, like some of the other city-states are smart enough to think, we have to keep these people divided, because if they unite, we're screwed. Because they could either come in and invade us, or worse yet, they'll pull the pin on this nonsense just to spite everyone.
And they'll collapse the regional lumber trade, and all of us will be scrambling for new supplies and fighting over new terrain territory.
It could take years to recover, and like I said, so there has to be almost a shadow propaganda from other city-states moving in to be like, hey, I heard that gang said some nonsense about you. And then like, what? And, you know, you start these little tiny micro wars constantly, these little gang wars.
This reminds me of, I'm getting like, if you play the original Fallouts or even New Vegas, I get like, hardcore, like, the Great Khans vibe. Like, that's kind of what I'm getting here. Is like, they're not all psychopaths, but they kind of are. Like, at the same time.
I mean, you got to have some warrior poets in there, some like actual leaders who have a chance to do something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they just can't. No one has been able to really crack it yet and get everyone together. Because they could form an actual functional city-state with ambassadors and this, and like be a political force. But right now, they're just the crazy kid at the playground that everyone's like, be nice to him because he could bring a gun to school, and that's a problem. Like,
Jesus.
It's a little too real, but like that's kind of like,
you know,
that has to be how everyone views hubris, is this sense of like, we gotta kind of play ball a little bit, because like I said, if they pull the pin and they're like we're gonna go fuck with that tether until this volcano blows the hell up, and that means that like I said, the economy is tanked. That it could, like, the lava flow could come and destroy anything else on that mountain. Like, you could have a serious problem that could take generations even to fix.
Yeah. And even, like, because of the level of scarcity in this setting, because again, like, most of the place is a wasteland or a void where humans just can't survive long enough to meaningfully bring much back, besides individuals. Like, interrupting trade, that has killed so many cities in history.
Well, yeah, it's literally a type of warfare, you know, like...
Yeah, siege. Like, that's how you win a siege.
Attrition.
You trap someone in their walls, and then you cut off their supplies, and you go, you have however long it takes for you to starve to make up your mind.
Shit, the Donners took a wrong turn, and they ate each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, literally.
dumb shit
Things can go
happens
from
all the
0 to
time.
100 in like seconds.
So that's the thing is there is a like I said there has to be a level of shadow propaganda of people coming in being like we have to keep them divided because like these people are crazy and you know there is a sense of hubris of people looking at it like we have to just put up with them. We have to let them be their way because they have such great resources. We can't afford to lose that.
See, this is a whole ass
So we
book. Like this could
yeah.
genuinely be a book. It's just like you have all these different gangs like vying for, kind of like Warriors. Weirdly enough, if you ever seen that one's
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's like you have all these different gangs, and when you start getting them together, it's just like, oh well, they could take out like a bunch of smaller gangs could take out the really big gang, and that would be a problem because that would be a giant change in power infrastructure, and that could screw over the neighboring nation. So the neighboring nation sends in infiltrators and be like, okay, what you need to do here is you need to tell this guy to go fuck his mother, and then or say that somebody else said that, and then we good.
As simple as painting a gang sign in the wrong region.
Literally, yeah, no, you can literally just like
Let's put graffiti in the wrong place, and
yeah,
you can start a war.
Boba Fett type stuff.
I forget where it was, but there was wasn't there like a big war over like someone put a bucket in the wrong yard and it caused like a war that killed like 70 people or something like that.
Where?
Stuff like that has happened historically.
Yeah,
But
it's like the one, you know, someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time in the wrong place, and that's what keeps hubris. But again, there's that joke in hubris of like, well, hubris sustains. Like that's kind of how they laugh off every little disaster there. Like, oh, I heard 30 people died because there was this big like giant attack that a bunch of gang members went into, you know, a neighborhood and like knifed people in their sleep. Well, hubris sustains. And then
Right.
like
that's like the modern equivalent of how we make suicide jokes to like deal with like stress
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
That's
I mean,
literally-
historically, that's a huge thing in so many like ancient cultures where they're like, well, life's a nightmare, but you have to keep living. So
right. How
that's-
did you get through the Dark Ages? With a fantastic sense of humor.
Yeah, you have to have a good sense of humor to like deal with things like that. You gotta be able to laugh at things. I think there's a point. Did you guys ever play Wasteland 2? That might be a little bit of a reach.
Um,
I haven't, sadly.
I want to say that I have, but it's been such a long time.
You play as like the Desert Rangers, and you're in Colorado, not Colorado, well, Nevada. Yeah, you're in Nevada, and like, there's a gang that they're not necessarily bad guys. They're just a little nuts. They're called the Mad Monks. They literally have bombs strapped to their chests, and their form of combat and dissuasion is to run up on people and blow themselves up, and like, that's a great dissuader. They also have control over like the last nuclear warheads in the entirety of Nevada, and everybody's just like, "Are you gonna set them off? We hope you don't." So like, they're kind of bad guys, not really though, because they're actually keeping somebody from getting their hands on a nuke. So it's like
They're just desperate and willing to do
and
anything.
nuts. They're literally
which
they are
is their
nuts.
own
Like,
threat.
but that's what these guys
But
remind me of.
I'd say too, like they're also a lot of those civilizations that do make it a while. It's because they care after their own citizens so well. Like, so it's like in hubris, there'd be plenty who was like, "Oh, if you're in the wrong gang, I will totally murder you." But like in terms of us being like, if anyone says anything about like, "Oh yeah, this guy from this other city said hubris sucks," it's like everyone teams up to be like, "How dare you?"
Oh right, like I keep
Hubris
going back
team
to-
number one.
I keep going back to the Expanse in my head and thinking of the Outer Planets Alliance and how like every single time they talk, they negotiate. They all come together in one room on a space station, and they basically talk shit about each other. But it always comes back down to circling around to, but we all want what's best for the belt. And like, you know, and at the end, I talk shit about you, I give you a backhanded compliment, followed by a legitimate compliment, followed by a legit piece of critique, political maneuver, turn to the crowd, the belt is awesome, screw the inner planets. Like, and everyone goes, yeah, that's an upstanding citizen of the belt. And everyone else in the room is like, the balls on this guy. And they go out and do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, like that, my favorite thing about this is that you might not even need, like some city-states just might not even need to send in infiltrators. All they need to do to throw these people into chaos is be like, we're willing to buy lumber from the loggers. not from the traders.
Oh yeah.
And like, oh, well, that just started a problem. And they're like, yeah, that'll fuck him up for like 3 months, and then in a couple months we'll be like, yeah, but we'll buy lumber from the splitters this time directly.
Yeah.
And
It's
then one day they actually do buy it from the merchants. Everyone else is like, why the hell are you buying it from the merchants? You've been buying it from us for years. Merchants are like, it's our fucking job. And then before you know it, shivs in the dark. Like,
exactly. There's plenty that can be said in terms of like I said, like shadow propaganda, but also just overt like you can't go too far, but like if you poke the bear a little bit, you can get it to
Right.
turn on itself. And I think I remember there was like an ancient Roman senator who he hated some city, or I was like I want to say like he hated the Persians or something like that. But he would end every single speech he gave at the Roman Senate be like, "Oh yeah, so we should give money to this, to that. Oh, by the way, we should all rise up and go and conquer this place because I hate it." And then he would like sit back down. And like every single time he gave a speech, so like it was kind of became this running joke that he would stand up and be like, "Oh yeah, we have to look after because the plumbing here needs to be fixed, but we should all rise up and go and conquer this place because I hate it." And they're like, so it's like for hubris, there's kind of this sense of like people are like, oh god, what are they gonna? Oh, we got to deal with hubris, but they kind of know like, well, let them be a little blustery, and then once they kind of get their stupid nonsense out of the way, then we can buy the lumber that we need from them. So people just put up with hubris.
I hate to bring it into like the modern age, except I don't, because I love political critique of the modern age. We don't even need to go out of country, like to bring that up. Literally, every single senator and House representative and president ends any speech they ever give with "God bless America."
Yeah.
Why? No one in our country is really like against that statement. It's not exactly a debate point. It's not a brave statement, but like they say that shit because it's immediately like if you're an American, you could disagree with all that shit before, but then it comes to that point, and everyone's like, okay, it's like God save the Queen, you know? Like, why do we say that? Obviously, it's implied, but
it's to reunite
like,
it.
Shut up. Yeah.
There was I want to say, I remember there was a presidential election where it's like, oh, he forgot to wear a flag pin on his lapel, and it ruled the news for like 3 weeks. Yeah. And I'm like, who gives a shit about this? But I feel like that's almost hubris. Like whenever they show up to the table, they're like, oh yeah, and hubris sustains, and they're like, yeah, we know hubris sustains.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the price for the lumber this year, please?
5 dudes. Oh god, that'd be so awkward. Like every time you have a trade negotiation with hubris, like 12 representatives show up from each of the different guilds, and they all spend 30 minutes shitting on each other in front of you. But at the end, they're all like, "But hubris sustains." Yeah, hubris sustains. Back pats, handshakes, and they turn to you like, "So what do you think?" And you're like, "I didn't hear a price, you idiots."
Yeah.
Jesus.
They're just like doing some verbal judo, just like being assholes to each other in time, and just like, fuck you, no, fuck you. Hubris sustains. Hubris class forms.
Hubris sustains. Hold on.
Wasn't it when they were doing the Treaty of Versailles, they spent like a week deciding how they should make the table, like what shape the table should be, and what kind of wood, and like all this stuff.
That's so superficial. Like,
but that's the level of government of where hubris is at. That's like
right.
So while other city-states are functional and they have ambassadors and like elections or like proper government, hubris is like, oh, we're a bunch of like a horrific pirate court that's constantly, jumping down our own throats. But we, at the end of the day, we all pretend like we all love each other by being like, oh, hubris sustains. And everyone just has to put up with them because they have the best lumber.
I mean, that is literally like, that right there is the critique of the mob right there.
Yeah.
Like the idea of rule through mob, which on its face is actually kind of appealing. Everyone votes, everyone has equal say, no one is a leader, or the ones that are leaders don't have more say than anyone else. Okay, that sounds great. Until you realize every modern government has an executive branch of some kind, or executive function of some kind, because it turns out that a mob doesn't actually get much done. They set their own neighborhood on fire, they throw a couple of bricks, and they go home, and nothing's really changed. But if you have an executive amongst them, then that mob becomes an army. and that might get something done. And hubris was decapitated. And just like the archetypal chicken, it's still running around with its head cut off. It's
Yeah, so-
alive, but it
so-
sure as hell ain't gonna do anything productive with the rest of its life.
These guys are a
That's
mixture
exactly,
of like
that's
Vikings.
exactly the
and-
joke. Is hubris sustains.
Yeah.
They never grow. They
You
just
could replace
sustain.
the word hubris
That
with
exactly.
headless chicken sustains.
Plateau.
Like, yeah.
Like these guys are like a mixture of Vikings, Mongolians, and there's one more I'm trying to think. Pirates. Like literally just like they like Age of Sail pirates. Like the golden age of sail.
I will say that I have one aside that I want to say about pirates, which is the golden age of pirates was about 8 years. It was Henry Avery's crew and then like 12 other people on the same ship that he knew, and that's pretty much the golden age of pirates.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like because Henry Avery, Blackbeard, Anne Bonny, Mary Read, like all like if you name like 20 pirates that you can think of offhand, I guarantee 16 of those pirates were on the same crew with Henry Avery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the beauty of it all.
But that's one aside I want to say about pirates. But I will say, like, I also think so. I want to go back to Forgotten because that's something that I think when we talk about hubris and like how they have maintained this exact same level of just ridiculous. There's no growth, but there's no entropy. It's just this perfect, endless, almost frozen in time sense of like mayhem and bedlam that
Yeah.
they are like. We hold our own and we trade with other people, but we infight enough, you know. But like everything else, what culture was like before, there's no one alive in hubris who remembers it. So it's just completely forgotten, and they don't even try to have a history of what hubris was like before the Switch. They're like, oh yeah, the Switch? No, it's the Forgotten, the Switch, and now. That's it.
That's
There's no other culture to them.
that's like Star Wars kind of vibes. Just like there's a far more like civilized age that nobody seems to really remember or care about anymore because they're just so caught
Yeah,
up with the now.
right.
They just like screw the Republic. They got the imperial government. It's like, what are we supposed to do now? Just worry about that.
And
And it's largely mystified too.
Yeah.
Like even in the concept of like how many civilizations, even our own, has this mythical concept of like a golden age of the past, make America great again, the return to the Republic in Star Wars. But like everyone forgets, dude, the Republic literally stagnated for a couple thousand years and then elected the dictator who destroyed it, and everyone was on board and in fact continued to give him more power. So much so that the senators who were like, maybe don't give him more power, were labeled by themselves the rebellion because of how absolutely radical the idea of don't give the dictator more power was at the time. Like, maybe don't remake that. It doesn't sound like a great idea.
I almost feel like that would be one of the few concrete laws in hubris, which is like trying to dig into the past is illegal. Like they would have a sense of like, look, we all have this kind of nationalistic pride about this bomb over our heads all the time, this huge roiling endless thunderstorm and like lava flow that could go off at any second, but we don't actually want it to go off, so we don't want you digging around, because if you accidentally set it off, we're all fucked. So I think that there's like, nope, it's forgotten, and we just ignore it, and we're just gonna not talk about it.
Yeah, and there's
the
also
only
sort of
people
like
allowed
there's sort of like a thing in that, in the regard, it's just like, yeah, okay, if they dig up something from the past and like accidentally set something off, sure, that could be the excuse that they use. But in reality, if people dig something up and be like, huh, this government was better than what we have right now, just like giving people ideas, that's what people try to suppress. It's a suppression of free thinking.
Like I said, that will threaten these little gang leaders. So like, hey, we had a king before, but nope, we're just not gonna talk about it. Just forgot. That's it. It's forgotten. That's what they consider their history before the Switch. Forgotten, and that's it. End of sentence.
Clean slate. We're doing it. We're doing it again. We're doing it over.
Yeah.
It could literally be like as simple as just like, is at the center of the city literally just got like popped out like a donut by this volcano. And so what's left of that donut is the Glasslands ruins, or like the volcanic ruins where probably they're growing their trees. And they could literally just have a law like, unless you're part of the loggers, or you're a representative, you're not allowed in the Glasslands at all. Period.
Yeah.
Entering the Glasslands is immediately it's volunteering to die, unless you're given a clear. And
They literally have they have ash trees in the literal sense.
Yeah. And I can even see a sense of like one of the bigger punishments back in ancient Egypt is that you would be stripped from history. So like that we only know because there's like a few people who kind of kept a few things here and there, but it's like, oh, if you broke certain laws, not only would you be killed, no one would ever be allowed to say your name again. They would like write down any record of you ever having existed. They'd like wipe it out. So it's like, nope, you are forgotten. You're gone forever. And for hubris, like that is the ultimate punishment in hubris, is this sense of like the same way that the old king is forgotten and gone forever, we will never say their name ever again. So it's like what hubris was before. And it's like, if you break these laws and try to screw with us, our number one punishment is you're gone for good, and no one will ever know you even existed.
I like that.
Yeah.
So to go into the Glasslands, to go into the volcanic ruins is literally to elect to be forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm getting terrible vibes of like that might be a means by people who just can't handle it anymore. How they do that too.
Oh,
It's
sure.
terrible.
There has to be almost a sense of like some people who do it on purpose, that they're
Right.
like, no, I'm done, and they walk in and that's it. And people, it's almost like that false Hydra thing of like, oh yeah, they never existed. I don't know who you're talking about. It's a terrifying fate. So it's like, you know, if you think of like some cultures, like, oh well, this person like disappeared under a black hood and they're gone. It's like, if that's the real threat for hubris, they might go and be like, oh yeah, well we have this. Look how terrifying we are. But what's really bad is like, no. If you go to hubris and you're forgotten, you're fucked. That's it. Like, that's where the other cultures are like, hey, they have that big lava thing, that's scary, but look what they do to their own people who just try to dig up history. That's terrifying.
Other places, they'll hang you. They'll shoot
Yeah.
you. They'll cut your head off at the wall. We don't know how many of our representatives they've killed. We literally don't know. Because they don't know. Because they forget them.
On
and
purpose,
they probably just go into the volcano.
Throw them in.
It would definitely be, like I said, the most terrifying thing that hubris could have. And so like there's also a sense of like, almost, you know, that can also be a big reason why they don't unite, is because like they can't. They're like Stalin-esque, keep wiping people out, that they're like, oh yeah, and painting them out of pictures and shit. Like, nope, they never existed. So like they can't have the infrastructure to ever pull it together, because people keep getting forgotten all over the place. You know.
What happened to John? We don't talk
It's
about
like-
John. Who's John? John? Never
Who's
met a John.
It's like, oh yeah, it's like, didn't you have like these generals that could like help you control your gangs? And it's like, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. I never had generals.
Oh, I love the idea that like the way they mark it is just they take volcanic ash and they smear it on the door of the person who's forgotten.
Yeah.
It's like you go there and you see the ash and you're like, I know what not to do.
Who is that again? Walks away.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like, note to self: never say Phil out loud again, or else you'll be punished.
Yeah. Don't ask where Phil is. You might find him.
God.
Oh, that's so nightmarish.
Honestly, I know that's dark, but honestly, I think that's a good place to end it, because we got to every single one of our words. That's a
Yeah,
miracle. That's a miracle.
Dude, that was nuts. Yeah.
This is what happened when Azzam shows up. You see that, fellas?
You see that,
Current
folks?
record holder, Alex
Setting an example. Well,
By
Alec,
creating a terrible, just nonsense, horrible gangs.
you literally made like gang Soviet Russia.
That's what I'm here for, gentlemen. All right.
Why don't you reintroduce yourself, man?
All right. So, like I said, I am Alec Azzam, a pro DM, purveyor of all things homebrew. I am, like I said, I just started a Twitch channel. I have a ton of, D&D 5e supplements coming out this year. I'm always working on something, but I'm at Azzam on pretty much every social media thing. Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Ko-fi, Patreon, YouTube, all over the place. But pretty much I write homebrew and I run an insane amount of D&D games.
You're a busy man. Like, I don't even know how you keep up with that, but kudos to you.
I don't know how I do it either, but we persevere. We sustain. See
Hubris
that?
sustain.
Brought it back.
We should just get every one of our guests a shirt of the city-state they've been making. 'Cause I think that's how it's going.
That would be my first T-shirt I'd wear in like the last 10 years. Is just a shirt that says "Hubris sustains."
Hubris
People are like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I'm like, it's like, look, watch this thing. It'll take like some time, but then it'll explain all.
It's also just political.
Start drawing a rune for hubris.
Get on that. That's your job, workhorse. Oh, I shouldn't say workhorse.
I'm just gonna have to make a rune for every city we make.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Alex. You've been an absolute delight. Like I said,
This has been a thrill. I've loved it.
You're the only person that's gone through all the words. So that's cool, though. I appreciate you. So
I'm glad I could be here.
Glad to have you, man. And we'll definitely have you on again in the future. Omni, would you like to reintroduce yourself, brother?
Of course, as always. I am everyone's favorite robot American, the last Omnitect. I'm continuing to work on my own tabletop role-playing game, the Legacy TTRPG project, or Legacy Storytelling the World Tomorrow. It's 16 years in the making. I've been doing almost all the work on it solo. Finally getting to the end of that process. A demo will be coming within the next couple months at most. I want to get it done preferably sooner rather than later, but the 2020s have been pretty ruthless, so we're not going to make any promises we can't keep. I also am a player on DMDM Studios channel on the Saturday games, both on our friend Red's here, as well as also DMDM's own Covet Syndicate. And I am currently looking at getting back into streaming and eventually into YouTube. So keep an eye out, folks, for some legacy content and some gaming content for fun, too. And that's me.
Thank you, folks, for joining us this evening. Sorry about the little impromptu sort of thing that we had to do here, but honestly, this was just as fun of an experience. Honestly, I think the reason we got through all the words is because my eyes weren't glued to the chat. But losing that live experience is just it's hard, you know. So, but if you want to support any of these creators, I'll definitely be linking their stuff. Any of these creators. If you want to support Alec or Omni or me, I'll put links to everybody's stuff in the description of this. And if you have any questions and stuff like that, or prompts, one-word prompts are great too. We'll be taking those and doing those on Wednesday. So good night, folks. I appreciate you, and keep on writing.